Today's project is this beautiful Drexel serpentine dresser. So I started by giving it a really good cleaning. I like to use a degreaser. Usually I use TSP, getting into all of the grooves. No matter how clean it is, you'd be surprised. It always needs to have another really good cleaning. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and strip the top down. I want to keep it wood. So I'm using Clean Strip Premium Stripper, and I'm just going to spread it out all over the top pretty generously. And then I like to go ahead and cover it with a plastic so that it can actually just kind of keep that stripper from drying out, and the extra heat just kind of activates it so that when I go to strip it, it comes off a little bit easier. I am going to paint out the body. So while the stripper is working, I'm going to work on these little curved areas. I'm going to do a really good scuff sanding so that I can prime and paint them. Once the stripper is ready, I'm going to use my putty knife and I'm going to scrape it off. You can see it's coming off really well. So I'm using a carbide scraper. And then after that, I'm going to use some very fine steel wool and some lacquer thinner to just go ahead and get the rest of that residue off. This stripper is pretty strong, so you want to make sure that you're using a respirator. And you can see I have thick gloves on when I actually go to take it off. So just make sure you have all of your protective gear on when you're using this. You can see the stripper worked really well. I got most of it off. And then coming back with that lacquer thinner, it did a really good job. So now I was ready to go ahead and start the sanding process. So I like to start usually with about a 120, and I'm going to sand through the grit. So I start with 120, then I go to 150 or 180. And then depending on what the treatment I'm going to do, usually I'll stop at 180. Depends on the stain. So some stains want you to stop at 180. Sometimes you go a little higher, but typically 180 is about where they recommend you stop as far as the staining process, because you want the grain to be open enough for it to be able to accept the stain. On the drawers, I am going to paint them out. So I'm going to give them a really good sanding, try to get them ready for that priming and painting. Anytime I'm painting out the drawers on a piece, I like to sand all the way around the drawer. That way, when you go to prime and paint, you're adding additional material. You don't want those drawers to stick. So I like to go ahead and really get all of four sides of the drawers. I really like to sand those down well. I'm going to use Ben Shellac primer. This one's tinted to a very light gray. This is mahogany, so this will probably bleed. The tannins will come through the paint. So you want to seal those tannins in. And so honestly, Ben Shellac primer is the best primer I found. They do have it in a spray, but I typically just use a paintbrush, I use a roller, and I usually just use, you can see I'm just using like a foam brush here because I usually just throw them away because this is solvent based. It has to be cleaned up with either denatured alcohol or ammonia. So it's really a pain, honestly, to clean, but it works so good that it's just worth the extra effort to clean this up. After the first coat of primer, I did find I had a few areas that I needed to fill in. I like to fill in any kind of little nicks or dents with some wood putty, just to make sure I have a really good base. I'm using Paperie by Melange paint. It's very easy to apply, very user-friendly. I just use a brush and a roller to apply this. Now I'm ready to do the top. I like to use a dewaxed shellac before I actually put on my stain. I think it just helps it to go on a little bit more smoothly, less blotchy. This is a gel stain that I'm using on top. This is Varathane in the color Hickory. It is a beautiful, deep, rich color. I love gel stains. They go on really well. They're very forgiving. If you have any little areas that need just a little extra help, maybe there's maybe some wearing of the veneer or something. It just fills in any kind of mistakes or just some imperfections in the wood, and you can see, oh man, it's just beautiful. So you put it on and then you just wipe it back after a few minutes. Here I went ahead and did a little bit of accenting with some gold wax, just with my finger, very subtle. I just thought it would be kind of fun to give it a little bit of accent. I'm going to line the drawers, and these are curved, so they're a little bit more difficult to line, but I start with a really good clean, and then I just measure it, the width, and then I cut it. I pull it off and I start at the back, and then I'm just going to kind of ease it into place with my fingers. I'm just doing a dry fit. And then I'm using my scissors and I'm putting little bitty cuts in it. That's just going to kind of ease it around the curve. And so then once I have that dry fit down, then I'll go ahead and pull it out, take the backing off. Like I said, I start at the back and I just kind of ease it down with my wallpaper spreader or a Bondo spreader. And you can see I'm coming back with an X-Acto knife. And it works perfectly. Here's the before and here's the after. I love it. That really beautiful off-white papery color paired with that really rich, deep top. That hickory, man, it is one of my favorite colors. I just think it pairs really well with the soft white. It's not a stark white. It's a very soft white. And then for the hardware, I did go ahead and keep the original hardware. It needed a good cleaning, and then I did re-spray it with my favorite gold spray paint, which I will link in the descriptions. And then honestly, that gold wax, it's subtle, but I think really provides a really nice high-end detail. I know it wouldn't be for everybody, but my client loved it. And so anyway, tell me what you think. I appreciate you watching.